Holy crap, guys. Saturday night action. The Anaheim Ducks have opened up the gates. And 2 days prior to the 2022 NHL trade deadline, we have two trades from the Ducks. The first one, and I would consider this a blockbuster deal because he's been one of the top guys on the TSN trade bait list and many people's trade bait lists. Hampus Lindholm goes to the Boston Bruins for a 2022 first round pick, a 2023 second round pick, a 2024 second round pick, prospect Urho Vaakanainen, and NHL player John Moore, and 50% of Hampus Lindholm's deal is retained.
Yep.
Contract is retained, and another deal, a side deal, Nicolas Deslauriers from the Anaheim Ducks gets dealt to the Minnesota Wild in exchange for a 2023 third round pick. So good value for both players. This is fantastic. We weren't expecting two back-to-back deals from the Ducks, essentially.
Yeah.
And so what do you think, Luca, about this deal?
Well, first of all, that we were kind of talking about this morning about how we didn't know if there was going to be any deals kind of happening today, and now it looks like even Giroux might be on the move. So we'll be covering that soon. But in terms of the Ducks, I mean, look, Nick Deslauriers is a third, fourth line guy at best, right? And he's a guy that I think, he's a guy that brings a lot of sandpaper. He's a guy who's going to fight, but he's also a guy that lately, especially with the Ducks and everything he's done, he's played well. And I think he's played well enough that on a team like the Wild, he can definitely be a big impact player. A third round pick for him when he was traded from Montreal. He had a fourth round pick that was given to him back then. Now it's a third rounder, so it's a good deal for them on that situation.
In terms distracted with other deals?
Yeah, but here's the other thing. So that's the other thing too. In terms of the Ducks here with the Bruins trade, I like this move for Minnesota, by the way. I think it's a good move for them. A third round pick, not really that big of a deal. But again, in 2023, the draft is stacked. So good
Nicolas Deslauriers is a UFA at the end of the season. His cap hit is only $1 million. He's known for being a grinder type of player. That's his style of play. He's 6'1". He was currently leading the Ducks with 210 hits. So this is a guy that you want to have on your team heading into the playoffs. This guy's going to get into the corners and he's going to allow your playmakers and your snipers to get a hold of that puck and go in front of the net and try to get some goals. So essentially, I think this is more of a playoff move. This is not going to be something long-term unless he does potentially take a pay cut, because we do know that the Minnesota Wild are kind of tight in terms of cap space, and that's why they got the Nicolas Deslauriers, a cap hit of $1 million for a 31-year-old with a lot of NHL experience. He provides size. He's able to go up and down the lineup. So that's very exciting in terms of Minnesota and what to expect from that player heading into the 2022 Stanley Cup playoffs this year.
In terms of what they got for Lindholm, let me just answer both these questions really quickly. Anthony Manzano and obviously John Weichel, I guess.
Weichel, sorry.
Giroux just has been traded. We're waiting for updates on what the return is going to be. But in terms of going for the Ducks here and talking a little bit about Hampus Lindholm before we get into the Giroux trade later on, Hampus Lindholm, this is a great move for the Bruins, by the way. I love this move for the Bruins. They bolster their decor in so many different ways. But what I like about that, too, is they're getting themselves a defenseman that they've been going after since the beginning. We know that they were interested in Jacob Chikrin.
And Ben Sherrod.
And Ben Sherrod. We know that they've been interested in Mark Giordano as well. They were interested in Hampus Lindholm, and now they've made the move and they put the pressure on teams like the Ducks to make this move finally happen. Look, the Bruins are trading away a first-round pick. They're trading away 2 seconds. They're trading away a prospect in Vaakanainen. They're trading away a buried contract in John Moore. John Moore, look, he's a guy who's not really going to be much for the Ducks. He's just a guy that they took back to take contract back at the end of the day to make the deal even better. Vaakanainen's still a decent prospect. He's still 23 years old, still got a decent amount of potential. Maybe not as a top 2 defenseman or as a top 4, but maybe as a top 6 defenseman in terms of that situation. So we definitely like that for the Anaheim Ducks. And obviously the first and 2 seconds, great asset management by Pat Verbeek here in the Anaheim Ducks GM mode, GM as well, because they get themselves really good assets for a decent defenseman, and now apparently the rumor is the Bruins are also working on an extension with Hampus Lindholm, so that's something to keep an eye on as well.
I
For
mean, when
us,
you give up a return like that,
yeah,
it's only normal that uh, a guy like Hampus Lindholm at only 28 years old, and you're giving up that much in terms of value, you're gonna want to lock up this defenseman. And thinking about this now, you lost Torrey Krug a couple of years ago. You
yeah,
lost Zdeno Chara a couple of years ago. So all the defensive responsibility, like we've been saying in all their trade rumor videos, whenever we linked players to the Boston Bruins in terms of defensemen, it's the Charlie McAvoy show. So
yeah,
now we have Hampus Lindholm playing on the left side of Charlie McAvoy, who's going to be playing on the right side as the first defensive pairing. We have Matt um, Grizzlick playing on the left side in the second pairing, paired up with Brandon Carlo.
yeah,
And on the third pairing, you have Mike Riley paired up with Connor
Clifton.
Clifton. So yeah, that solidifies Boston's three defensive lines right now. Heading into the playoffs, knowing that this is one of their needs that they had to adjust for the longest time after losing Chara and Torrey Krug, and not really being able to replace those two players internally. Yeah, they gave up a lot, but they got Lindholm, a guy who played a solid two-way game, and he's capable of taking off some defensive responsibility off of Charlie McAvoy, which is
And
honestly fantastic. And I think Boston Bruin fans should definitely be very happy in terms of the player that they got in Lindholm. In terms of the draft, the prospect they got, um, the Ducks, sorry, Vaakanainen was drafted 18th overall in 2017,
stop it.
and and
That's a funny
you
comment.
know, he's gonna potentially play for. I don't see him not cracking. That's a good one. Stop to show the Panthers. Winning the cup. Yeah. Um. So Vakanainen is definitely gonna crack the young core that's being established in Anaheim, surrounded by players like Jamie Drysdale, Trevor Zegras, and so on and more. Again, that's just a throw in. A throw in. I think it's more of like a contract dump. If anything, he's only suited up for 7 games for the Boston Bruins. So this guy, he's not going to even be able to crack an
Yeah.
NHL defensive defensive pairing. And for the Ducks, yeah, they're just going to slot him in just for the time being. Um, I know there's a lot of Claude Giroux talk right now. We're
Uh,
definitely covering that deal very soon. We
it's
just
just,
can't get rid of
guys, we're trying to get more information, but we're gonna answer a few Giroux questions now. Obviously, Anthony just asked us. Well, actually, he asked us about Jacob Chikrin and what the asking price is going to be if he ends. Do you think we ends up in Arizona, or is that asking price too much? I personally think he stays in Arizona. Maybe the deal becomes a deal like that becomes interesting in the offseason. I don't know if it necessarily happens now. But obviously, the market's really high, as you can definitely tell just by looking at a guy like Hampus Lindholm. Look at his market and what he got. Jacob Chikrin's going to get a lot more than that, and that's already a pretty high deal in terms of that. And in terms of the Panthers here, in terms of it's crazy if the Panthers are able to get Claude Giroux. They have two veterans to help guys like Huberdeau and Barkov who don't really have a lot of playoff experience. Exactly, and I think Giroux is going to be a big impact on the Panthers. We're going to talk more about that when the deal officially gets confirmed. But
So let's
going
go
back
back. Let's go
back
back to
to the
the
Ducks.
deal.
Back to the
um,
Ducks. So basically, I like this move for the Bruins. I said that. I like this move for the Ducks as well. But I think
for a
this is
rebuilding team, essentially, the
right.
Ducks. Look how good they were at the start of the season. They progressed pretty well with the team they had, but there was a couple of UFAs on that team,
Yeah,
and you knew you're not going to resign them, right? So you have Ricard Raquel who's left to be traded. You just moved Hampus Lindholm for literally three top. Oh my god. Oh, lost. Okay, wait. Sorry. We're getting distracted. All these comments, guys. You're so interactive. We
yeah.
appreciate this.
Well. In terms of
Los Angeles wants Chikrin, yes.
yes,
Yeah, we heard about that. So going
but
back to what I was saying before, you get 3 top draft picks from the Boston Bruins. You get one of their top prospects. Yes, you get John Moore, whatever. That's a throw-in. Um, but for a rebuilding team, the Anaheim Ducks got a lot in return for Lindholm. So I honestly think this is a win-win, especially if Boston is able to assign Lindholm to a contract extension because he is only 28 years old,
Yeah.
and that's really going to help McAvoy in the years to come after losing guys like Chara and Krug. So on that note, um, I would say it's pretty fair. Yes, they got more than Ben Sherratt. This is
Rightfully so.
now now the question is how much is Jacob Chikrin going to get in return from
Yeah.
Arizona because he is younger and he has more term on his contract.
And the deal is cheap too.
Yeah, and his cap hit is essentially, if
Well,
I'm not mistaken, around $4 million. So I mean that's going to be fantastic for the Arizona Coyotes, who are also rebuilding, and they're going to get a huge haul in return for a guy like Chikrin.
well,
In terms of the Nicolas Deslauriers trade, again, I think that that's a win-win for both because Minnesota, uh, Guerin really needs the general manager of the Minnesota Wild really needs to be cautious on the moves he needs to make. So adding a guy like Deslauriers with the NHL experience that he has and a type of grinding playing style that he offers an NHL team heading to the playoffs, not only is it flexible in terms of cap space, but what he's able to offer to a team heading into the playoffs that someone has struggled. I think that's a good add. And for the Ducks to get a third round pick in 2023, that's
yeah.
very good value in Deslauriers.
Well,
He's been traded before, but this is the most he's ever received in terms of a trade.
what I want to say is I want to ask you something here. So obviously, we know what the Ducks gave up. Obviously, there's been rumors as well, and obviously, I'm gonna just put up Winterborn's comment here. Raquel is most likely gonna get
Uh,
moved too. Yes,
100%. If
and
Lindholm got moved and Manson got moved,
yeah,
he's next to go.
and obviously
100%.
he also says don't be surprised to see John Gibson get dealt in the offseason. And this is the question that I wanted to ask you. With the Anaheim Ducks, we obviously know that they're rebuilding. We know that a guy like Ricard Raquel is obviously going to get most likely going to get moved as well. Do you think that the Anaheim Ducks, with the contracts that they with the deals that they've already made this time, do you think a guy like Ricard Raquel and obviously even other assets, maybe a guy like Ryan Getzlaf or a guy like Adam Henrique or something like that, do you think
Getzlav,
the
he
Ducks
could.
make another move, a couple of other moves, and where do you think they go from here? Are they going to be full? It looks like they're going full on rebuild.
Well, look, we all know that Trevor Zegras is the man in Anaheim. They
Anthony,
want
I'm checking every 10 seconds. Don't worry.
to. We're gonna be covering that soon, guys. Wait, wait,
Yeah.
wait. This is just the beginning, guys. Wait until when we go live on Monday. It's gonna be even more crazy than this.
Anyways,
So going back to your question, Luca, that's a good question.
yeah,
Getzlav, he's very loyal to the Anaheim Ducks, but doesn't he want to win a Stanley Cup, a second Stanley Cup?
yeah,
I know the Montreal Canadiens and Boston Bruins were heavily interested in signing him during the offseason. He opted to re-sign with the Ducks. So now that Corey Perry's gone, it's been years now. You're seeing Lindholm leave. Raquel is potentially going to be moved. Manson. There's been a couple guys that have been on their way out. Does this allow Getzlav to realize, holy crap, this team's going to a full rebound, oh my god, a full rebuild. I'm over the age of 36 years old. You know what? Maybe I could offer a team something in terms
uh,
of going for a playoff run.
I just want to say something in terms of the Duck trade. They also added another asset to Boston. Another defenseman, Cody Curran, was also part of the Hampus Lindholm trade. This got announced just now. I know it's nothing big, but it's another AHL player going back to Boston. So I just wanted to clarify that in terms of if we didn't get the full trade right. That just came up right now. Like I said, Anthony, in terms of the Giroux trade, nothing's been official yet. All we know is Giroux to Florida and Tippett to Philadelphia,
This is a
which
good
was
question,
fantastic.
actually, from Winterborn. Yes, there's been rumors actually concerning John Gibson in the past, saying that he was unhappy with the situation in Anaheim. He felt like the workload was too much for him. The team was not going anywhere. Um, so there is a chance maybe he does get moved, but he is relatively young, and I don't think the Ducks are that far in
Yeah,
terms of um, like making the playoffs. They had a great start to the season. It's just unfortunate that they started to slip, and then they went from standing pat because I don't think they were going to add any pieces heading into the playoffs if they would have made the playoffs. And they became sellers ultimately,
yeah,
which they were expected to be from the start of the season, which is actually good that happened because not only does it show that Ducks are progressing well in terms of their rebuild, but it also allows them to shed away players and get hauls in return. Look what they got
Yeah,
for Manson. Look what they got for
I
Lindholm.
agree.
Even for a guy like Deslauriers. So Gibson, I think that's more of a 50-50. It's really it really depends on him what he wants to do moving forward. But I don't think the Ducks are that off in terms of competing for a playoff spot. And yeah, like I don't think there's really much more to say. I think we should start getting ready for the
Well,
Claude
actually,
Giroux
the,
deal.
the Giroux trade just got announced, so I think we should end the video here.
Okay, so yeah, everyone's talking about the Giroux trade, guys. We love the interaction with you guys. It's fantastic.
We love this. Thank
Get
you so
ready.
much.
If you guys have these questions, get ready for the
Yeah, because we're going to be
Philadelphia
doing the
video,
Giroux video right now.
because we're going to be doing that in a couple of minutes. Is there anything else concerning the Ducks here before we end this? Question: when teams trade draft picks, specifically conditional second or third round, can you guys please explain how conditions work in the NHL? Okay, so maybe Luca could answer that question very quickly.
Basically how it works is like it's kind of like the NFL, but essentially how it works is like example, like Tampa yesterday they traded away 2 conditional first round picks for Brandon Hagel. Those first round picks are top 10 protected, meaning that if if Tampa Bay misses out on the playoffs for whatever reason within the next 2 years, those picks get transferred to later years. So yes, it is kind of similar to the NFL in some sense when it comes to that. So yes, that no issues with that. One
Yeah.
answer, Winterborn's question of Stolarz is someone that could very well be moved. He's been great for the Ducks, and not a lot of people are covering him, and a lot of teams could use that goaltending right now. I agree. I think Stolarz has been better than Gibson this season in terms of where he's been and how he's handled himself. I think he's outplayed him at times. So that's definitely something to look at for teams. But I don't know. I don't know where he would end up. Maybe a team like Edmonton. But even then, I don't know what that move would be. I don't even know what type of trade package you'd get for that. But he's been really good. I think he's been better than Gibson, like I said. So definitely with that. And to answer Anthony's final question, where a player has to play a certain amount of games or get a certain amount of snaps, exactly. That's also, I don't know if that's necessarily part of the NHL. There is some trades that happen like that where it is, oh, if this guy plays a certain amount of games, then this pick turns into like another pick. There has been a few situations like that. It doesn't happen very often, but it's happened a little bit over the last couple of years. So yes, it is similar to the NFL.
So, guys, we're just gonna conclude our episode and say, holy crap, we love everything you guys had to ask us in terms of questions concerning the Ducks, the Boston, and most importantly, Claude Giroux, which we're gonna be covering very soon. Don't forget to check out that episode, which we're gonna be going live in the next couple of minutes, covering that blockbuster deal
Yeah.
that was, somewhat expected and very anticipated within the last couple of days. But don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel. We're going live on Monday for the 2022 NHL trade deadline. So make sure to be with us on that day from start to finish. And yeah, we'll see you on the next episode, guys. So
Yep.
until then.